Hi there. In this movement practice, we are going to focus on the wrists and the forearms. And in order to join me in this practice, I would recommend having some kind of blanket or towel available to you as the prop that we're going to use today. And this work is not only really wonderful maintenance for wrists and forearms in a world where we spend a lot of our time utilizing those muscles, but only through a small range of motion. It's good maintenance for our typing muscles. But on top of that, this practice that we're about to go through is a really wonderful setup for any movement practice that involves the hands and the forearms and the wrists, okay? So anytime you are practicing, maybe it's some other videos in this forum, or it's some other online resources that you're practicing, or in-person classes that you're going to, and if any of those classes or movement practices involve weighted movements on your hands, I would strongly recommend utilizing at least some of these tools in preparation for those practices so that the musculature of your forearms and in the hands can stabilize and support the wrists through all of the work that you're about to do. Okay? So we're going to start this movement practice on our hands and knees in a tabletop position. Start with your shoulders right over the top of the wrists, and just slowly then create some small circles with your torso. The idea here is just to see how the wrists are feeling this morning. It's not so much about the active work as it is about checking in and noticing what's going on in the wrists, switch directions. And then from there, we'll do the work, okay? A couple of circles in each direction. And then come back to a more neutral position where the shoulders are right over the wrists. And then we're just going to turn the dorsum of the hand down, so the back of the hand down, and we're going to start to create a little circle. At a certain point, you're not going to be able to continue that circle anymore, so you have to turn the hand back and continue. Again, once you reach a point where you're not going to be able to continue anymore, turn the back of the hand down and continue. And the idea is that eventually you'll smooth this out and maybe even hover the hand slightly away from the floor. The closer you can keep your hand to the floor, the more range at the wrist you're going to need to drive. So use the floor less as a support and more as a tool for hovering and then driving more range of motion. Switch directions. If there's any portion of that range of motion that perhaps feels a little bit more difficult, a little bit shakier, those are the ranges that we may need to spend a little bit more time on. And then we're going to switch sides. Second side, start the same way. Turn the dorsum of the hand down. Create a little bit of a circle with the fingertips tracing through that circular range. When you get to a point where you can't turn any further, turn the palm down and continue that circle through a nice arc until again you can't make it any further, and then turn the back of the hand down. Same as the other side, start to combine those ranges and hover the hand slightly off the floor. As much as you can, try to keep the arm relatively straight through this range, through this movement. And then switch directions. And as you do this now on the second side, notice any differences that you might feel between the first and now this side. And then once you've evened that out, take a seat again and reach for your blanket or your towel. You want to make sure that you've got some room to roll it up, and then bring your hands in nice and close to the middle of whatever you've got. And then you're going to try and really tightly roll the towel or the blanket, keeping your arms straight. So you want to try and roll it up, roll it up, roll it up. Keep going, arms straight until you can't roll it any further, and then unroll it, arms straight. And we're going to do that a few more times. Roll it back up, arms straight, until it gets to a thickness where you can't roll it up anymore, and then unroll it piece by piece, and then do it again. Last one, roll it up, all the way, unroll it, all the way, and then set the blanket back down. If you'd like to do more of those, you most definitely can. And then return to your all fours position. You might want to start with your knees a little closer to your wrists. Because what we're going to do is we're going to spread the fingers as wide as we can, and then from that really wide position, bring them in just a little bit so that we're not quite at our end range there. And then lift the heels of the hands up and away from the floor. Try to keep the full length of the finger in contact with the ground. And then from this height, really slowly lower the heels of the hands. If you find that it's really, really choppy and difficult, keep your knees where they are. If instead you find that that's okay, move your knees back a little bit. Keep the shoulders where they are and repeat. Lift the heels of the hands and really, really slowly lower the heels of the hands to the floor. Again, if you feel like that's really shaky or choppy, you can either pause there or go back to having your knees a little further forward. Or if you're feeling okay about that, you can move your knees a little bit further back. If you move your knees further back, try to avoid moving your shoulders back to accompany them. Keep your shoulders forward and stacked right over the top of the wrists. Lift the heels of the hands, and then really, really slowly lower the heels of the hands to the floor. Okay. Again, take note, if there's more room for you to progress, move the knees further back still. Keep the shoulders where they are though. And one more time, lift the heels of the hands and then really, really slowly lower. And then take a moment to take a seat and give the wrists a little shake. And then we've got two other options for that. So you could do that again with fingers pointing forwards, or you could turn your fingers out to the sides. The work is the same work, except the musculature in this position is going to be slightly different. So trying out either these variations in a row or on various days can be good to keep a little bit of variety going. Lift the heels of the hands and then really slowly lowering them back down to the floor. Take note of your progression. You could move the knees back a little bit. Repeat. Really slowly lowering the heels of the hands. Take note of your progressions. really slowly lowering the heels of the hands. And then one more, the fourth one for this variation. Make it the slowest one yet. And then once again, take a moment, give it a little shimmy, a little shake. And then our third variation, for this one we're probably not going to be moving our knees back very much. You might give it a try, but the likelihood is we're going to probably keep them pretty close to the hands. Turn the fingers so that they're pointing towards your knees. And then try to keep your shoulders forward in space over the wrists as you lift, and then lower the heels of the hands really slowly. Also take note that you may not experience too much of the lift of the heel of the hands here, and that's okay. The idea, more so than the lift of the heels of the hands, is the work in the forearms. If you're feeling your forearms doing the work here, then that's the main point. 2 more of those. Press into the fingers so that the full length of the finger stays on the ground. If you can get some lift of the heel of the hand, great. And then slowly lower. If you can't get lift of the heel of the hand, also great. Keep the work going for the same amount of time that it took you to lower the heels of the hands in your other variations. Okay? After 4 of those, take a moment to shake it out. Roll the wrists out. And then, so now we've really nicely worked what we would call the extrinsic flexors of the hand. So a lot of the muscle bellies are located in the forearm, but they are movers of the hand and the wrist. Now we're going to work the extrinsic extensors. So once again, come back to all fours. Have your shoulders over your wrists, and then incrementally what we're going to do is we're going to lift one finger at a time, but we're going to keep our arms straight. So you keep your arms as straight as they possibly can be and lift both of the thumbs off the floor at the same time. Try to keep the rest of the hand flat on the floor and the arms straight. As we go through this, the elbows will want to bend in an effort to try and help you get more lift of the fingers. Try to avoid that. Let the thumbs come down, keep the arms straight, and try to lift the index fingers off the floor. Arms straight, index fingers. Also try to keep the rest of the hand on the floor. Keep that finger lifted, and then slowly lower it. Try the middle finger. Arms straight. Check in with the elbows. They will want to bend. Don't let them. Try to keep the rest of the hand in contact with the ground and lift the middle fingers off the floor. Lift, lift, lift. And then slowly lower. The hardest one, the ring finger. Try to get a little bit of a lift of that ring finger. If you can, comment below because I want to know. There's only a couple of people that I know that can do this. So if you can get it, great. If you can't, the intent of the lift is the work, okay? And you should feel your forearms doing the work. Lower that ring finger in your mind, and then work on the pinky finger. Lift the pinky finger, lift it, keep the rest of the hand in contact with the ground, and keep your arms straight. And then we're going to work backwards towards the thumb. Lower the pinky finger, lift the ring finger, at least in your mind. Keep the arms straight, they will want to bend. Try to lift that ring finger, lower it. Middle finger, keep the rest of the hand in contact with the ground, arms straight. Lower the middle finger, index finger, it's almost over. Index finger, lift it, keep the rest of the hand in contact. And then the thumb, lift it, lift it, lift it. Lift it, lift it, and then slowly lower. And then come down to your knees. Give the wrists and the forearms a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a shimmy. You might like to spend a little bit of time giving yourself some stretches that might feel good for you. This prep, like I said, is really important, I believe, for any practice that is on the hands. You may notice that your forearms are doing a lot of work from that, which is what we want, because when these muscles are active, your wrists are more supported. And a lot of us these days have wrist pain and wrist discomfort when we're giving weight to our hands. And most commonly, that discomfort is a result of not having the muscular support from the forearms and from the muscles in the hands. So by doing this work that we just did, the hope is that we get those muscles active, and therefore they are more likely to be involved every time we're on our hands. Also, you can think a little bit about this active work in your movement practices and press the fingertips down a little bit more to get these muscles of the forearm and the hands activated even more and supporting the wrist joints, okay? You could also leave it at that for today. Your forearms might be feeling pretty warm right now, and that will help with any type of computer work that you've got planned for the rest of the day. Otherwise, this is wonderful prep to set you up for other movement practices, okay? Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon.